And welcome back to another episode of Tiger Talk with the 1400 Club, the Corey C, Ken, and Zoe. What up, fellas?
What up, Corey? What up, Zoe? What it do, Tiger Nation?
What up,
Yes,
Superman? What up, the Corey C? What's up, the I Love family?
yes, sir. Yes, sir. What's going on, fellas? I mean, it's spring. It's almost that time. We always looking forward to the fall. So, it's a long time between football season. So we always looking forward to this spring and this spring game coming up. So I know y'all feeling good about that.
Yeah, man. Anytime we can get on that green grass, man, and get some pads clacking is always good, especially in good old Jacktown, man. So, new coaching staff, new team, new expectations, same OJ issue.
Yep, same like Zoe said, man. This is the first spring under head coach TC Taylor, officially, kicking off his era. New staff, new team, new look team. I mean, they look pretty good out over the spring, so it's exciting times, man. And everybody's interested to see what we're gonna do.
No doubt, no doubt. Let's talk about it. I know we've all had the privilege, the pleasure, the honor of attending some of the practices. But let's go back to what you said, Ken. Coach TC Taylor, first spring. I know something he's been pretty much waiting his whole career, his football career for, and for this opportunity and to do it at Jackson State. It makes it even better. So with it being his first spring, and I know you guys are observing what he's doing, even talking to him as well. So what has stood out the most or impressed you the most about TC, Coach TC Taylor in his first spring taking over a squad that hasn't lost a SWAC game in how long ago?
2 years.
2 years. That's huge to take that over. Big shoes to fill.
Yeah, I think his the thing that's been most impressive is his demeanor. His temperament, the way he's been able to weather the storm, I guess you could say. With the exit of our previous coach, the issuing in of his era, a lot of turnover, assembling the staff, recruiting the number one HBCU recruiting class in a short period of time, and then trying to get started. So a lot of moving parts, and the team has adopted his temperament. They love to hashtag play for TC. The coaches, the camaraderie that is in the room and on the field is definitely noticeable. So just want to say we doffed our hat off to Coach TC Taylor, and it's exciting. You see him just even in the press conferences be very poised, very matter of fact about what he wanted to say, what he wanted to address. Didn't give too much, gave just the right amount and just enough to keep everybody wanting to come and get a little bit more. So I would say his poise and his temperament has been the most impressive thus far.
I would echo Ken. I really believe, you may sit and ask, what exactly is this new team going to look like under TC Taylor? And I would just tell everyone, that this team is definitely made up in his image and his personality. The outside world just haven't gotten a glimpse of that, but they'll get a glimpse of when they partake in the blue and white game. But quiet confidence is what you see in this, and the fact that he, came up with the new slogan and the new motto and battle cry, for the university. Being that it is guard the yard. I mean, knowing that we've gone through what we're going through and how we foresee things going forward, it is the perfect moniker, the perfect battle cry, the perfect thing that this team ushers the field with. When they break the huddle, they say guard the yard, guard the yard. And it's a perfect battle cry for us. And that's what we intend to do, with this upcoming 2023 season, knowing that, new coaching staff and new era, but we're on a current 20-game winning streak, and we're 8 wins away from tied Jackson State's current, SWAC leading consecutive win streak. And we're going to see if we can lay claim to it and break what's already ours. And in doing so, that's another way to usher in the new TC Taylor era.
So when you guys talk about taking on his personality and his temperament, so if you know TC Taylor, the man, or even the coach, previously before being a head coach, he's a guy who's laid back, not much of a talker. So if you, and I know we've always heard the team takes on the personality of the coach. So how does his personality translate over to the team as far as their play on the field, because it's the opposite, it's the polar opposite of what we've seen the past 2 years. So how does his personality kind of translate over to the team? What kind of team will we see?
I think he's business. He's a matter of fact, all about business type coach. Very intense. For those that may have not had a chance to witness that, he is about execution. I'll give you an example. If the offense is off on the side and they're getting ready to run out on the field for an offensive set, if they don't break the huddle with the right amount of energy and intensity, he tell them go back to the sideline. Mm-hmm. Do it again. Or if you get started with a play and the ball is not snapped right, offense off. He is all about perfection and execution at a high level and getting it right, getting better each and every day. So I love what Zoe said, quiet confidence, that he exudes that. And like I said, you can say poise, you can say a lot of that. But one thing I thought was very impressive when we witnessed the practice, the energy at the practice was very high. You felt like those players, which we do know this to be the case, really want to be at Jackson State. Mm-hmm. They really love being at Jackson State, and they embody what Jackson State football is all about. And that's what their excitement made us more excited, because it's nothing. We love Jackson State. We True Blue Tigers, but nevertheless, when you see those that have that uniform on, that get to represent and actually play for Coach T.C. Taylor, it's pretty impressive. And also his staff has a very similar temperament. It's quite intense. And I'll say one last thing, and I'll let Zoe grab it. One thing we've never seen in all the practices that we did get a chance to witness is that although the coaches were very tough on the players, they were very matter of fact about getting things right and corrected. You never saw anybody put their head down, sulk, or show any attitude. Yes, sir. They want to get it right. And I just thought that that's indicative of the coach and the leadership of the team. So very impressive thus far.
Well, I would echo that, but I would also state that TC is a very, very, very confident person. Mm-hmm. He exudes that. And I think a lot of time when we say someone is not as vocal as other people, we tend to think that not being vocal lacks confidence and lacking vigor. And he doesn't lack either of the two. He's a very confident individual, confident coach. And to echo what we see at practice, the one thing that really stands out, yes, the energy is high, but he exudes that confidence, but the team exudes a belief in him and the staff. That's the one thing that you really come away with. This team believes in this staff. And to echo another thing that Ken stated was, one thing you see in practice that is really remarkable is you see a lot of correction, but in that correction, you see a lot of valuable teaching. Because we don't see any coaches tearing down players. They're always uplifting and they're teaching. And, the one thing we do know when it comes to spring ball at the practice that we see is it's not about battling or jockeying for, depth, your status on the depth chart, moving up or moving down. Everything within the spring is solely about development. And that's what the coaches are striving home in these practices. It's all about development, getting better to a man, to a position, because all the battling really is going to happen, after the blue and white game, coming in when the spring, and then, you're really going to battle it out, trying to, solidify yourself, whether you're going to be a 1, 2, or 3. But everything right now is all about development of the players.
Mm-hmm. And speak more about that coaching staff, because that was a question mark coming in when you assembling a brand new coaching staff, first time defensive coordinator. Is this the first time being a defensive coordinator,
yes.
Bradley? First time, and yes. Then Coach Harris, of course, he's been co-offensive coordinator. Has Harris been a full-fledged offense coordinator previously?
No.
Okay. Just want to be sure. Didn't think so. Just want to make sure I wasn't overlooking anything. So you look at first-time coordinator. So what are some things that will possibly question marks for you about the staff that have been answered, or what has pleasantly surprised you so far about this staff? Not just the coordinators, the staff as a whole.
Well, the staff has great camaraderie. They genuinely like each other, and you see that they exude that. There's great chemistry there. But also bear in mind, there's a lot of new familiar places, but there's a lot of familiarity within the coaching staff. Bear in mind, the quarterback coach, O-line coach, even they all have ties to TC.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a great touching point. There's binding things there, and it's always great when your head coach is the glue. And we know that coaching staff is built on relationships, but then when you have a common thread, and the head coach himself is the common thread, and then and also knowing where these guys come from when they have the connection with TC, that plays an important part too. But to even speak on the coaching staff. When you look at Maurice Harris, and yeah, he was the co-offensive coordinator last year, but he was the sole play caller last year. So he's not going into this first season with us blind, not calling plays. So that's important, and that's a big point that we need to emphasize. With him calling plays, but Maurice Harris was a godsend as an OC, especially with what we see when you're talking about cohesiveness within all the returning guys. And I mentioned earlier on one of the other podcasts that we did earlier about, paying attention to the players that we have and just paying attention to skill sets. And the one thing I've noticed from him is that he's actually paid attention to the skill sets of not only players brought in, but the previous players that was on the staff, and marrying that with what he wants to do within the confines of his offense. Then you go to the other side of the ball when you mention Coach Bradley. No, he's never called, plays before, but we're talking about a player. We're talking about a defensive coach that actually played in the NFL and has great experience, on that side of the ball. And even listening to him and on what he wants to do within this defense, I think we're fine. He actually calms a lot of nerves when you think about what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. And again, I'm going to use that term, marrying a lot of what he wants to install, but also a little bit of what we did the previous year because of the skill set of the talent that we have. And I think it's a good marriage. So I love the way that he's actually going about it.
Yeah, I'll echo what Zoe just said and what he just mentioned. I think that the home run analogy is perfect for Coach Maurice Harris on the offensive side of the ball. Just watching the scheme and the different sets, the different my goodness, man, it is a sight to see.
It is.
It's fun. And then tempo. You're looking at tempo. You're looking at
so
many things that they looking to do, man, and it's quite impressive. And for us football nerds, those of us that love those different little nuances that you can create on offense, we kind of get a little bit of all of that. And then the usage of the tight end position. So Zoe made a great point when he said, taking what we have, coupling that with recruits that he's bringing in, all bringing it together to formulate a look to fit exactly what it is he's trying to do. And what Coach Bradley does is he comes in from an Alcorn that I would say gave us probably the most fits of last season. That last game was very indicative of his work. That offensive line really gave us a tough time in the Soul Bowl. And to bring him over and you look at kind of the schematics, the scheme that he's going to run on defense, it definitely fits the skill set of the players that are the strength of our defense. So maybe you see a few different looks than last year, but I love when he at his press conference he mentioned you're gonna see some zone, you're gonna see some different sets, and I think that works in our favor. That makes us excited versus just being in one set. And then listen, there's not to knock the fact if it work, right? But when you run into a situation like the Celebration Bowl where you don't really see that adjustment. You know what I mean? You got a team that prepares for you for a month, and then we go and run in and we couldn't stop the run, the basic, you know what I'm saying? So, and there's various reasons, but my point is this. My point is when you look at what Coach TC Taylor was able to put together, and he, bringing over DB coach from Alcorn, Coach Bradley did, it all, and even in that core and zone, there was still just some, Coach RJ Fleming, who we were excited about.
Mm-hmm.
He exited. He's now an offensive analyst for Auburn. It is what it is, right? Coach TC Taylor has already mentioned that after this spring game, you're probably going to see, either before or after, we don't know. We're probably going to see a new name that will be announced. So he's done a great job of formulating a great staff. And I think the key word for his staff is camaraderie. And that's the thing that and cohesive. They really operate like a well-oiled machine already, and that's where the continuity and actually having a coaching, I would say, just a coaching pipeline. You know what I mean? Where you can, when you get that opportunity, you're able to make some calls and really get some really good coaches to join you right away. So it's going to be exciting. I'm looking forward to them, and I think what they've done thus far has been pretty impressive with what they've had to deal with.
Now, I asked you guys about question marks when it comes to the staff. What about the team as a whole? What are some question marks that you had going into the spring that in this short amount of time you feel has been answered for you?
First thing comes to mind is the obvious, just the elephant in the room is quarterback. I mean, we can't sit here and act like, we lose a great player in Shedeur Sanders who, set records here, broke records here, you know what I'm saying, and had a great 2-year stint as quarterback at Jackson State, who decided to move on to another institution. And, to anybody would automatically assume like, that's a huge void that we got to fill. And I got to tell you, we filled it. We filled it.
Got to flip that coin.
Feel really, really good about where we are at quarterback. I can honestly say, thanks to TC Taylor, we've definitely upgraded the quarterback room than what it was previously.
And when you say that, you mean not necessarily at the top, but you mean overall the room from top to bottom.
Correct. From the quarterback room as a whole has definitely been upgraded with TC Taylor. That's one thing that actually, soothes you in regards to what we're going to do in that. But also, again, we lost some bodies. And so whenever you have something coming out, you're unsure of what's coming in because you haven't seen it on the field. So it's always going to raise some question marks with that. So naturally, we're going to gravitate to the O-line. But, I would usher all our fans to understand that when you see what we're doing on offense, when you see the scope of what we're trying to do with regards to the O-line and even some more of the bodies that we're going to bring in, it would actually really, really cool any anxiety that you may have because, a totally different offense, totally different mentality of how we want to go about winning and playing on offense. We're not going to be a drop back and throw the ball 40, 50 times a game. We're going to run the ball quite a bit, and run blocking is a whole lot easier than pass blocking. I think we're going to curb the time of trying to get the guys acclimated and gelling and getting that cohesiveness on the O-line. I think when you see that, that's going to relieve some anxiety. But also, even on defense, the back end, we have 2 guys who started quite a bit, but hey, people are going to automatically go to, hey, we lost the number 1 recruit in the country. Hey, how do you replace that? I mean, we know that, he was here, but he only played so many games. When he wasn't playing, the guys we have here were starting. But still, that's going to leave a void, and people are going to automatically gravitate to that. We have K5, got an interception in the pick 6 last year. You got Jalen Hughes, who got, a couple of interceptions himself last year. Those guys have valuable snaps. So we're great on the back end. But, hey, you lose the SWAC Defensive Player of the Year, a potential NFL draft pick in 45, Aubrey Miller. You lose another player going to the portal in Juriante Davis. But, again, we bring in some fresh bodies. And, again, we see what we see. But, again, scheme matters. We're going to do some things differently because we're going to play a lot more zone this year than what we did last year. So we're not going to ask about our linebackers this year to do what Aubrey and Juriante did full well last year. Everything on the D-line comes back intact. So a lot of the questions that we have, they really weren't big questions, but yet enough they were still questions. And, fellas, I believe we answered those.
There were a lot of questions, actually, and there still are a lot of questions. But with that being said, the biggest question mark was how are we going to replace the bodies that were exiting the door? And I think Coach TC Taylor, just out the gate, and his staff did a phenomenal job of doing that. And not just replacing body for body. He was replacing body, we feel, in what we've been able to witness is a very similar skill set. I mean, starting with the quarterback position, I'm sorry, man. I don't care how good your team is. If you don't have a good quarterback, you're probably not going to win in the SWAC. It's just not going to happen. And let's be real. We had the best quarterback in the conference for 2 straight seasons. And when we see that position go out, and it wasn't even close. I mean, some people like to make the case it wasn't. So when you see that player, the offensive player of the year, walk out the door, the biggest question mark is who's going to be the signal caller. But then when you go and see the recruits, that's one thing, y'all. When we see them on paper and we watch their film, But when you go to practice and you see Coach Harris and his offense, and you see that quarterback, and you see those quarterbacks taking that snap, and you see the zip on the ball, you see the accuracy, you see the decision making, you see the elusiveness in the pocket. I mean, you feel like, you know what, we got ourselves something, right? So that makes you feel good. Even I would even say, as much as to lose several bodies. I'm not going to mention any names because we lost quite a bit. Mm-hmm. But with that being said, when you see the strength now being the front end of the defense and the defensive coordinator being a defensive line guy, that makes you feel good, because that defensive line is nasty, man. I'm just telling you, and I'm talking about from a 2 deep standpoint. So looking at how we want to play, looking at the depth and the bodies and the men that we currently still have on the roster, barring no other transfers, I think the biggest thing, the biggest question marks have been answered. One other question I would stay along the lines of recruiting. I think it's safe to say that our head coach does not recruit safe, and that was my biggest concern with anything. That I think we did not want to see a downslope in the type of or the caliber player that we want him to go after. And he has definitely done that. So it doesn't, and that type of mentality. The reason why I'm saying that is this: that type of mindset, it allows you to walk around with that quiet confidence, basically saying, you know what, if you do exit, we feel very confident that we can go and get another player that's just as good as the person that's exiting, and we're going to continue to keep doing exactly what we're doing. So still some question marks, but the real question marks that I really had in my heart, I mean, I feel really good about what we're seeing, and I'm excited, last piece, to see the bodies that are not there. Because, y'all, we saw what we see. We saw what's there, what's here, what's at the university. But boy, oh boy, man, the excitement of that haven't joined. Mm-hmm. I can't wait to see that be coupled together, and we see a full scope of what this team is going to look like. It's going to be exciting.
As someone else will say in the past, when we see what's under the Christmas tree.
I knew you were going to say it. I knew it. I was thinking it.
Let it alone.
But no, you mentioned some questions that weren't answered as well, though. So let's get right into it. Some question marks that you had that still unsure about, and obviously we got time. We haven't seen the full team yet. We know at least 10, 15 more guys are coming in. So the questions that we may have that are unanswered, the coaching staff may have the answer, but just from your viewpoint, what are some things that are still unanswered for you?
Well, I mean, excuse me, I would even venture off to even stay with Coach T.C. Taylor had. We have a wealth of enormous talent in the wide receiver room. But, we had a great deal of production to leave. So, again, we have the potential. The talent is there, but we got to see it come together. And we need to see certain things from these receivers. So, the great thing about having potential, you got to match and put out and produce what your potential is. And so at the wide receiver room, and then again, because we're doing things differently as well in the tight end room, we have a great proven commodity. It's safe to say we have the best tight end in the conference in DJ Stevens. But however, we're going to be playing multiple guys. You're going to have Jesse Riley coming in now, who's going to garner, way more playing time than what he's gotten since he's been at Jackson State. And he's being called on and asked to do quite a bit. And then, you still have a Hayden Hagler, who's coming back, who has a great body. And again, DJ is proven, but now DJ is just one of many that's going to be on the field. So again, and I hate to mention it, but the last time we saw Hayden, he dropped the touchdown. So how he's going to bounce back from that? How is he going to respond to that with another season? And being that we're going to ask quite a bit from our tight ends, and then everybody's always going to have questions with the O-line. But like I stated, being that we're doing something different, but again, we're talking about potential, and we have some more bodies coming in, that we haven't seen just yet. That's going to be coming, over the summer. Again, how quickly can those guys gel together and mesh? Because even in the run blocking, they need to block as one. And we're going to do some things schematically on offense within the run game that's going to, that we're going to depend on those guys quite a bit. And again, the great success that they have will venture off into the success that, that we'll have. But even the obvious question at quarterback, we feel great about the quarterback room. And for an example, Jason Brown has great, collegiate experience at St. Francis, as well as played, in the SEC with South Carolina and in the ACC with Virginia Tech. But be it as it may, he played, sparingly at both of those institutions. That long season at St. Francis was quite a few years ago. Again, new team, new offense. How well will he be? Knowing, he could come in and if he can grab the reins at, as starting quarterback. But then behind him, when you have a Phillip Short, who's coming in, stepping up to D1 for the first time, being a local hometown kid, how is he going to gravitate to this offense? It's a fairly new offense for him. And then, you have Zai McDonald, same thing, local product, legend in the Metro Jackson area from Regional High School. He really didn't play at Louisiana Lafayette. So, and we have all three guys battling it out, man. Who's going to take the reins and take that job? TC said we're going to have a coin flip, but again, those are still coming questions for us that we're going to see. The blue and white game is coming up, and I think we'll probably start to see some of those answers, some of those questions being answered. But then when you go to the defensive side of the ball, you look at, again, we feel great about the D line, but who's actually going to start? How much are they going to play? What shape are they going to be in? Linebackers is the biggest obvious question. Who all's coming and how will mesh together. But lastly, and I'll let you go, Ken, the coaching staff. Again, this is TC's first time at the reins, doing what he's doing. And, how is he going to handle it? Like, what's his nerves going to be like that first game? Because, again, it's going to be a first time in Miami. He's the head guy. Everything's going to be different. Everything's going to be new. So there are several questions that have yet to be answered, but we'll see.
I'll try to mention some things that Zoe didn't mention. Biggest question mark, I think, is going to be the offensive line, and it's basically going to be revamped. We got a lot of bodies that are not physically on campus just yet. So when you have a good bulk of your O line that's not going to be here in the spring, so they're going to miss that early opportunity. The O linemen that are there they're taking all the reps right now, and it is what it is, right? But we're going to go games are won and lost in the trenches. That's first and foremost. Feel good about running back. I feel really good about our quarterback room. I won't be redundant and go down that road again. I want to jump to the defensive side of the ball because I think our tight ends and wide receivers are elite. I think we got arguably the best in the conference in both of those rooms. When you go to the defensive side of the ball, I think we got the best defensive line in the SWAC. I say that with confidence, knowing what we know and seeing what we see. And that's the one room and that's the one group outside of quarterback, maybe running back, tight end, and receiver where you feel like there's a too deep. The biggest question mark is going to be linebacker. When you lose to Aubrey Miller and Uriante Davis, and those are huge gaps. Aubrey was Mr. Everything for us, right? Is Alan Walker going to be that guy, right? We know KJ Harrington is back, but there's room for questions. I think the linebacker position is very important. I feel good about what we brought in and who we brought in. The other piece is special teams, man. Just the question mark as far as, and I know as of right now we don't have a designated special teams coach, so that's a question mark as far as how is Coach TC Taylor going to approach that? Is that something that he's going to? I like the kicker that come in, Luke Jackson, but Luke he's kicking and he's punting, so we can use a punter. So the special teams, just in general, in my opinion, is going to be there's some questions that still got to be answered. But again, it's the spring. It's a new team, new era, new coach, new staff, new everything. All of it is fair. One last question I have that has to be answered. It ain't got nothing to do with the coaching staff. It ain't got nothing to do with the team. The biggest question mark is how is Tiger Nation going to show up this year for this team? And I hope that we show up at a higher clip than we did over the past 2 seasons. That's what I got on that.
Right on.
So, we talk about the question marks. Ken, you said this wide receiver room. You said it's elite. You said you think it's the best in the conference. But we lost a lot of guys from that
Yep.
wide receiver room. So I'm going to pose a question mark that Coach Taylor himself kind of posed in a recent interview. He talked about 3 guys who are kind of stepping up. Rico Powers, of course, we expected that. Trevante Rucker, I know you both excited to see him have a bounce back season after what we saw early on in his freshman season, and then Seven McGee. But if you talk about a 4th guy, he talked about another guy needing to emerge. Who do you expect that guy to be, or who do you hope that guy is? Or could it be a tight end to emerge as that 4th quote unquote receiver?
I'll tell you right now who the 4th guy is right now.
Easy.
The 4th guy is going to be between Brandon Johnson and Andre Hunt. That was my pick. I would just start with Andre Hunt, honestly, because every time you see the clips, 85 is all over the place. He's doing his thing. The reason I say it's an elite group is because you got a Jonas Fertillion who redshirted, big body, and before he's nursing a little ankle tweak, but prior to that, he was out there doing his thing, right? We have freshmen that I think can start on any team in the conference that ain't even at the campus yet. I'm talking 3-star, 4-star. And these guys are elite, big bodies, good hands. And I think that see, this is where this is where it gets funny to me at. Jackson State just seems to be the only school in America where when kids are talented and they highly recruited, they seem to regress once they put that J on. I don't know why people just assume that when they come to Jackson State, they can't play. So, but if that same player would have committed to Mississippi State or committed to Southern Miss or committed to Arkansas, it would have been a whole different ball game. So if Mike Williams commits to Southern Miss and Isaiah Spencer's at Ole Miss and Isaiah Kendall's at Arkansas, hey, man, we're talking about these players in a whole different light. So but those players are Jackson State Tigers, and you add them to Rico Powers, Seven McGee, Trevante Rucker, Andre Hunt, Brandon Johnson, and let's just not even stop there because we want to give these guys some shine. Being out at practice, I want to doff my hat off to a Kobe Paul, who is good to work in. I want to doff my hat off to, I'm going to give you a name that I really like, and I'm telling you, Julian Smith, man. Julian Smith is out there. When I look at Julian Smith, and he might see this, little fella, grimy, you just feel like Julian Smith is going to earn himself some minutes.
Yep.
It just seemed like it just does. So not to even forget David Studstill. Now, I don't want to get into
Don't start going down the list.
I always get somebody and they think I overlook them, but I like the room. I think we're pretty healthy. But if I had to pick a 4th, I'm going to say Andre Hunt for now, and Brandon Johnson will be a close 5. Very close.
I tell you what, my answer is easy. And that's going to be Jesse Riley. Jesse, he's a matchup nightmare for any team in this conference. Big body receiver. I mean, he is a Kyle Pitts clone. Let's just call it what it is. Same exact measurables, but Jesse just may be a little bit faster than what he is. And he's going to get asked to do quite a bit. And when you talk about Jesse, and you're talking about a DJ Stevens, who was, I mean, let me just say, DJ Stevens is probably the most sure-handed receiver in this conference. No, he's a tight end, but DJ Stevens does not drop the ball. And and you talk about both of them on the field at the same time. I mean, Jesse is. I'm expecting really, really big things from him this year.
And a shout out to our boy Antonio Gayton. You're not. I know you're watching. You're not on campus yet. That's why we didn't include you.
I didn't mention him. I did the freshman intentionally.
Right.
Because I wanted to highlight the fact that we have some youth, but Antonio Gayton I think is going to be a star. He replaces a Willie Gaines.
And then we talked about this running back room as well. So the elephant in the room, obviously in the running back room, we're probably going to have a new leading rusher this upcoming season. So what do you think about this running back room, running back by committee, or do you expect for someone to emerge as that person who can tote the rock 20 times a game?
Running back by committee. I think
it's going to be running back by committee
because the offense is going to have. We can't give them too much. It's going to be different people lined up in the back. But if we want to stick with the running back position, I'm going to follow the head coach and what he said, because what he said matched the eyes and what we visually saw. And what I mean by it is J.D. Martin looks good. I don't care what nobody think or what they think they saw. Kids get better, man. They get better. They put the work in. You get bigger. You get faster. You get stronger. J.D. Martin looks good. Desmond Moultrie.
I was waiting on that one.
It's good. Then you got Amari Matthews. You know, I told him Maurice Jones, Drew Bill. But there's two. there's two running backs that's not even one of them they don't even know about that we think we're gonna have a good chance to commit. But one commitment that people don't sleep on, Mr. Herb Mulligan. We had him on Tiger Talk with the 1400 Club, and listen to me when I tell you, man, I am a fan of that kid. Hey, he said he likes violence when he's running the ball. I think he fits this offense perfectly. And I think it's going to be running back by committee. I don't think we get maybe we get 1,000-yard rusher. Maybe we do, but I think maybe we get an 800, 600, 400. That's just my opinion when it comes to the running back one.
Well, I concur. Eddie Martin looks amazing. Really does. But so does Desmond Moultrie. Desmond
That was a
Moultrie
surprise
is,
for a lot of people. Yeah.
and we have to remember, you know, when we talk about the differences from last year and this year, no one saw Desmond Moultrie. He didn't play last year. So he's going to be a welcome surprise to everyone who sees him, Tote Rock. And then again, you have Amari Matthews, and I'm sorry, Imani Matthews, forgive me. And you
I didn't even mention Aubrey Miller, brother, Ahmad Miller. But go ahead.
And let me tell you, Ahmad hasn't reached his full peak with regards to his size, but that kid, like, he could be a potential Greg Jones. Google that if you don't know who that is that played at Florida State. That's what Ahmad reminds you of. But this is depth, it's deep. And I understand that people look at one particular player and they think we're going to just put all our eggs in a basket for one player. But I'd rather kill you with 1,000 razor blades, 1,000 paper cuts, man. You got a deep room and utilize that room, you know, because this is a violent game where attrition happens and you want good quality depth. We don't just have depth; we have great quality depth in that running back room.
Absolutely. So let's look ahead to the spring game coming up this Saturday. What are you looking forward to seeing the most in the spring game? Give me two things. And what I mean by two things is give me that thing that you're looking forward to seeing because you already know what it's going to look like, but you just can't wait to watch it. You no surprises, but you just can't wait. You're excited about seeing it. And then give me that thing that you can't wait to see because you don't know what to expect. You just want to see it. Now you've kind of seen it in practice, but you want to see how that's going to translate into more of a game type atmosphere. So give me two things.
I think I'm really going to surprise y'all. The main thing I want to see that I can't wait to see is going to be 5, 6, 7, 8. That's Jay Hughes, K5, the Book of Isaiah Guthrie, and Kedrian Callaghan. Kedrian is going to be a star on this defense, and we haven't talked about him enough.
Coach called him a pro.
Yeah,
he looks the part, man. I would venture to say we upgraded at safety, but with Kedrian and Kedrian is like Eddie Jackson, and man, Isaiah's go without saying, man. So I want to see that. I've seen it. I'm just excited for Tiger Nation to see it. That back end is a strength. That D line is a strength, and we're just going to wait and see what we got in the middle. But the one thing I want to see that I'm hoping to see, because being that we've gone to practice, I'm not going to even talk about the quarterback. I've seen enough there. I'm confident in what I see there. I'm really going to say, man, I can't say O-line because we understand what it is there. Mm-hmm. A lot of other guys coming in. I would just say, looking at the linebackers, I'm sticking solely defense because defense wins championships, and we have the best defense in the country for the previous 2 years. So I really want to pay attention to the focal point of the linebacker play, watching Alan Walker do his thing, and seeing what we're doing, even just seeing what they're doing. But again, that back end is the thing that's going to please the crowd. But the question mark with the linebacker crew, I want to see them and hopefully get a great surprise from them as well.
Man, Corey, the stuff I want to see, man, it still ain't got much to do with the team, but it does have everything to do with the team. So my number one thing, man, that I want to see is the reaction of our fans to what we've witnessed. because this is different, y'all. I'm just saying, man. I'm so excited about this offense and finally feeling like we got a dadgum good offense, man.
We do.
So you saying you haven't felt like that in the past?
It's
No,
different. It's different.
oh, I'm not a fan of the air raid. I was a fan of 2. I felt like the offense, if you give Shador, I felt like if you gave Shador something to work with, he was just good enough he was gonna make something happen. That's when you know you got yourself something. I still feel like I'll say it like this and I'll move on from that. If Shador ran this offense, it would have been ridiculous. It would have been ridiculous if he would have in his offense. So I guess my first thing would be the offense, to actually see it in motion. But the things I do want to, the thing I am excited about seeing this spring game is the ones versus the ones. Usually you only get 1 or 2. You get about 4 plays on offense. I'm curious to see how is Coach T.C. Taylor going to display this to the Jackson State Tiger Nation, right? We're gonna have a lot of recruits in the building. I want to see how many fans are going to turn out. I want to see how he's going to lay this spring game out. I want to see the format. What's going to be determined a win or loss, and because spring football is a little different when it's you versus you. But if you just kept it on the field, I'm excited about the offense and actually seeing which plays they're going to display visibly, because there's going to be a lot of eyes there, y'all. Y'all know it's going to be a lot of clips. It's going to be a lot of footage. There's going to be a lot of talk about Jackson State. So what plays is Coach Maurice Harris going to display to the world? Number 2 would be, how many plays will we get to see the ones versus the ones? Those are the 2 things I would say, along with a lot of ancillary extra things that goes on with the spring game. I'm just excited, man. That's why I had to be here.
We know you're excited. Do you take the whole week off work, kid, or just Thursday and Friday?
No comment.
I mean, just Thursday, Friday, and the following Monday. Let me throw that one in there too.
I'm just saying. I don't know who. I'm working.
There you go. We'll leave it at that. Don't get yourself in trouble. All right, last one. I'm gonna put y'all on the spot. We don't usually do predictions on here, but let's do it. Spring game offensive and defensive MVP. Who you got?
Ooh.
Offensive MVP.
Watch you take who I want.
You can say the same guy if that's who you.
Offensive MVP. It's gonna be the obvious. Rico. Defensive MVP. Jeremiah Williams.
Ooh. Offensive MVP, Seven McGee. Defensive MVP. I'm gonna go Devontae Davis, man.
Stand on that D line. Stand in the middle of that D line.
So you go strong side, I go weak side.
I just think I like my chances. Now they don't get a chance to hit the quarterback. So
that's the thing.
Let me do it this way. Since Zoe went defensive line, I'm gonna go DB. So I'm gonna say on the back end, I'm gonna say 7 versus 7. 7 McGee, Keith Drain Callaghan. Those are gonna be my 2 choices.
That's gonna be a battle too.
All right, there you have it. All right, fellas, spring game, blue and white week, man. Exciting times around JSU. Can't wait to see you there. And how many we need in the stands? Ken, you keep talking about this crowd. It's just spring game now. Don't ask for 50. How many?
We need a minimum of 20,000. You know what I mean? We got to have 20K, man. We're gonna have probably 100 recruits there, and I think we're gonna get about 10 commitments. You just never can tell. These coaches are recruiting their butts off, man. They have done a phenomenal job, and hey, fans, you might see some of them interviews pop up on Tiger Talk. You just got to stay tuned, man. So 20,000, Corey and Zoe. I'm excited to see what we do, though.
I agree.
All right, there you have it. So yeah, stay tuned. Tiger Talk with the 1400 Club, interviews, recap, and all of that. All right, we'll catch y'all at the vet. Go Tigers.
Yeah, bro. Go Tigers.
I love guard the yard, baby.